English is not my native language, so I'm sorry if I make any mistakes. I am a 22-year-old girl from Spain. I am very used to using public transport to basically everywhere, and it's not unusual to have some weird or creepy interactions with people, mostly men who randomly start to tell you about their lives and how sad they are. I usually just nod and politely smile until I can go other way, and I try to be very nice and polite because I am terrified of offending a crazy dude in case they do something. It had worked every time, unfortunately, many times. However, this encounter in particular left me pretty shaken. I was on a train coming back home, and it was like a 40-minute ride. I usually just wear my headphones, but that day I decided I would just spend that time reading some random novel on my phone. It wasn't even dark out, so I was fairly calm. The wagon was mostly empty, except for a guy and a couple behind me. I didn't pay attention to any of them because I get really focused when I enjoy a novel. The first 5 or 10 minutes were uneventful, until I saw that guy from behind up and change his seat to that one that was oriented towards me. Not immediately in front of me, but maybe 2 seats ahead, looking in my direction. Again, I didn't pay much attention and I kept doing my thing. Then I hear the guy mutter some words. At first, I thought he was talking on the phone or something, but when I looked up, he was looking straight at me and didn't take his gaze away when I made eye contact. It was only then when I realized what he was saying. He was insulting and cursing me, repeatedly and non-stop in a very low voice, but low enough for me to understand. The insults ranged from bitch, whore, stupid to much more colorful Spanish insults that I don't think even I have a translation. I got paralyzed. Why was this guy cursing at me? I had nothing to do with him. I had barely looked at him. I thought maybe I had pulled a face or something in the beginning, but I had my mask on, so I couldn't have. I began to panic a bit, as I didn't know what to do. It only got worse when the other couple that were in the wagon got off, so now it was only me and him. I thought about getting off the train too, but we were positioned in a way that made it impossible for me to move anywhere without walking right beside him, and I didn't want to get that close. I decided to ignore him, pretend I was not hearing him, and see if he would get tired and stop. But no, he just kept going. It was the creepiest thing because he was barely stopping to breathe between insults. He just kept going, repeating the same things over and over in a menacing and threatening tone, with hate in his words and his eyes, always looking right at me, even though I tried my best not to look back. Then, things just got worse. He started mixing physical threats among his insults. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to bash your brains in, and stuff like that. That's when I really started to freak out. Insults were one thing, but I felt this was escalating. I started messaging my friends and my boyfriend, telling them the situation. My boyfriend tried to call the train security phone, but there wasn't much they could do. I didn't dare calling them myself because I didn't want the guy to know I was calling for help. I also wanted to cry so badly, but I didn't let myself because I didn't want to encourage him by letting him see he had an effect on me. For some reason, he moved. He changed seats to one that was behind me. I got out of the train on the next station, even though it wasn't my stop, because I didn't want him to know which one was my stop. I kept looking behind me, fearing he would follow me and act on his threats, but I didn't see him anymore. One of my friends picked me up in his car, and he took me home. The whole ride I was shaking and crying, kinda laughing hysterically because I couldn't understand what had happened nor why. I got paranoid for a bit, thinking he would somehow follow me, but I haven't seen him again since then. The worst part is that I was scared of using the public transport for a couple days after that. I was so frustrated that a fucking weirdo could have that effect on me, and that he had done that to someone he didn't even know. I kept thinking what would have happened if I had been wearing my headphones and hadn't realized what he was doing. I would have gone off on my stop like normal. Would he have followed me? The train station where I usually stopped was in a pretty shady area, and I still get creeped out when I think about what could have happened if we had been alone there. I'm even shaking a bit just by thinking about it. So, to that random dude on the train, let's not meet again. This one is fairly tame, but this is my story. About 3-ish years ago, I was out with a girlfriend celebrating Cinco de Mayo. My husband had to work early the following day, so he did not come along. At around 2 a.m., I called an Uber to go home. I'd been using the service by then for several years. I had never had an issue. I'm a pretty friendly gal, so initially the driver's questions didn't really sound any alarms. He asked stuff like, "Why are you alone? Aren't you married? Where is your husband?" I felt fairly confident that he'd back off once I confirmed I was married. As we were driving down a fairly desolate stretch of road, he started to drive really slowly. At this point, I was beginning to feel uneasy. There were no other cars, no reason to reduce speed. He noticed that I was keeping my eyes on him when he looked back through the rear view mirror. He suddenly stopped the car and got out. I immediately unbuckled my seatbelt and jumped out of the car as well. I just yelled out, "What the fuck are you doing?" He mumbled something along the lines of, "I thought I heard my tire. You didn't hear the tire?" I was like, "No, you should never just get out of the car." The strange thing is that he wasn't even surprised that I just exited his vehicle. He got back in, ready to complete the ride. At this point, my options were 1, get back in without buckling in, or 2, stay on the side of the desolate road, alone, at 2-something a.m. and wait for another car to pick me up. I chose option 1, as I pretended to call my husband to let him know I was 10 minutes away. This next part is where it surprisingly takes an odder turn. As I'm riding, desperate to be dropped off at home, police sirens go off behind us. The driver panics, looks through the mirror, and starts going on about how the warrants they have are false, and how his license should be valid, and it's not his fault. The cops ask him to step out, realize he's in the middle of a ride, so ask me to step out too. They search him and his car and arrest him on the spot and take him to jail. His license was also expired for 2 years. I asked why they pulled him over and they tell me, turn without a signal. I asked them if they can drive me home and they told me they weren't a taxi service. By then, I was on much more vibrant street with well-lit sidewalks, so I called another Uber to take me home. The night ended without an incident. So, creepy Uber driver and rude cops who wouldn't escort a woman home past 2 in the morning? Let's not meet.